Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Getting Hammered. This one's special. Vic, my co-host, sitting right next to me in a fancy little set we have here because we are making video.
Hello, Mary Katharine. Nice to see you, and nice for everyone to see how sort of the sausage is made, because we're actually now in studio, not in the old recording studio, now that we're on YouTube.
Yes.
And people can see us. And I couldn't help but think about sometimes you would see your own, like favorite radio personalities, and then suddenly you see them on TV. Personality, and you're like, oh, that's why he's on the radio. And
are we killing the radio star, or are we making people rethink whether we should be radio stars?
You're multimedia. I really do TV. I feel like this is kind of a cross. The set is kind of a cross between the Mike Douglas show and Between Two Ferns.
Yes.
Or at least the Mike Douglas show.
I do feel like we need cigarettes. Like that would really
that would be
finish
great.
the
and it
look.
could go right here next to the logo, the ashtray.
That's the era we're going for.
Would be a pile. No, I was thinking about the great Seinfeld episode where Kramer reassembles the Mike Douglas set in his apartment. That's what this is like.
We are those people. We are also your morning show for any hour. As I said, this is Vic Matus of the Washington Free Beacon. I'm Mary Katharine Ham. How's it going, Vic?
It's going fine. I'm just really sort of focused on this new mode
You got to try to
recording.
find your posture.
That is one thing, but I don't think it's supposed to be comfortable for us. I don't even know if it looks comfortable to the viewers. But I was just telling this.
This is show business. Don't get comfortable.
When you see the panel shows, like The Five or Outnumbered or whatever it is, probably not The Five, because the later stuff, I think they can tend to be a bit more loungy. Yeah. But certainly on Outnumbered on Fox, they sit like this.
Oh, you gotta
always
pull it together. People.
There's you know what? But it's a twofer, because you're recording, so you're doing your job, and you're building your core.
This is true.
Your core.
It won't surprise you to learn that my husband will text me in real time while I'm on TV and tell me to sit up straighter.
Considering I've never seen your husband slouch ever, I can believe that. Ever. No, he's very upright. My other concern is this, and that's why I had no breakfast this morning, is the 15 pounds. They say that the camera puts 15 pounds on you.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing. I hate to inform everyone.
Anyway.
But we do our best.
We do our best.
We're in shape, people over here.
We'll see how this goes. If I pass out, you'll know why.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good.
What's going on?
Speaking of in shape, this weekend I took the entire family to do a 5K.
Oh, hey, that's doable.
The 9/11 Heroes Run.
I can't believe, I did that once. It would have been so funny if I didn't. I would have seen you all there.
You should have come,
I would
silly.
have tied with one of your kids.
Maybe. One of them was pretty fast.
Well, good for you.
So we went out. We took everyone. And
it's a great cause.
We decided that next year, by the way, 911heroesrun.com, there are still some more through September and a little bit of October as well. If you want to run one in your community, they are fantastic. So we went out. I've helped a little bit with this race. It's not mostly me, but I've helped a little bit with this race, maybe 3 to 5 times. Our race director has done 5 of them, and it has poured for 3 of them. Oh. And the forecast all week was looking like a little iffy for Sunday morning, because it's during hurricane season.
Right.
So you end up with the remnants of a hurricane coming through. It's not great for attendance. This time, we ended up with perfect running weather, beautiful, cool morning, overcast, didn't rain until it was almost literally the second everyone got off the course. And then it sprinkled a little bit, and we were fine, and we went on to the brewery and had a beer.
That's so funny, because when I did my 9/11 run, the weather was also similarly gray. Yeah. And a little bit rainy. But then we went over to a brewery in Pentagon Row.
Nice.
Is that where you went, or no?
No, we were over in Oakton. So it was the settle down easy.
Oh, you didn't do
brewery and tasting room.
Did you do the 9/11 run at the memorial though, or no?
No, this one is separate from that.
Okay. The one I do is I did. Kelly did one
time.
Sorry, I did do sub 30. I want to point that out. It was right by the Pentagon. That one.
Nice. We did not do sub 30.
Okay.
Steve did, but the rest of us did not.
I can't do that now.
I pushed two babies in a stroller. I had to have my mom friends marshaled. I was like, "Ugh, what am I going to do with these babies?" And I texted everyone. I was like, "Who has a double bob?" And I have a twin mom friend who was like, "I have a double bob." Brought it over. I ran with the babies, and then I made the other 2 girls stick with me.
Running with the baby, running with strollers. I feel like it's like parting of the Red Seas for you. Like people will cut you a lot of slack for speed. They're not going to be like, hurry up.
Oh, no.
And you are doing what, a basic jog while pushing?
A very light jog.
So you're in the back of the group. Usually they put up like
in fact, the babies are my
front.
excuse to go slow. I'm like, I don't have to try that hard.
You know, I thought about this.
I already look like I'm trying hard if I have 2 babies.
I thought about this for like one of these marathons, like a Marine Corps marathon, where I could push somebody in a wheelchair. And then I would be able to get away with just walking it.
You totally could. Or you could do, as part of the Travis Manion Foundation group, we have a couple people who we trade off pushing.
Oh, yeah.
And so you could just do a couple miles. I invite you down. All right. We got a lot of news today.
We got a lot.
So we should get to it.
All right. Let's do it.
And stop discussing my 40-minute time for the...
40? No, 40 is okay. All right.
No.
With kids.
I think I might have said this before, but in one 9/11 Heroes run in 2018, I ran, I think, my fastest 5K ever. I don't know exactly what it was, and I should. I'm going to look it up and fact check myself. But it was in the neighborhood of 21, 22. And I finished first in my age group. That was 2018. Those days are gone. Then last year, I was pregnant and pushing a baby, and it was pouring, and I finished dead last in the entire
that. I think we discussed
race.
This on the show. It was
so this year was an improvement.
Okay,
I'm working back up. Okay, on to the news. Trump, presumptive-ish nominee for the GOP, sat down with Kristen Welker, the new host of Meet the Press, for a full hour, by the way. I commend him for doing this interview.
This is like a walk in the park for him. This would have been the worst thing ever for Joe Biden. He would have, I don't know how long he could have kept it going. But Trump is so alert for I mean, as you know, he used to do the South Lawn press conferences.
Right. He sort of enjoys this stuff. I think they're smart to keep it minimal.
Yeah.
But look, credit to him for engaging with somebody who's obviously going to be adversarial.
Right.
Welker was especially adversarial, as all press members are, on the issue of abortion.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to the GOP's position, and much of the American people's position, which is sort of moderate on abortion, they are far, far left of it.
Yeah.
So she was asking him quite a bit. I think there was like a 9-minute conversation about abortion policy. Let's hear a little bit about what Trump said here.
Mr. President, I want to give voters who are going to be weighing in on this election a very clear sense of where you stand on
I think they're all going to like me. I think both sides are going to like me. What's going to have to happen is you're going to have to... Kristen, you're asking me a question. What's going to happen is you're going to come up with a number of weeks or months. You're going to come up with a number that's going to make people happy. Because 92% of the Democrats don't want to see abortion after a certain period of time.
If a federal ban landed on your desk, if you were reelected, would you sign it at 15
weeks? Are you talking about a complete ban?
A ban at 15 weeks.
Well, people are starting to think of 15 weeks. That seems to be a number that people are talking about right now.
Would you sign that?
I would sit down with both sides and I'd negotiate something, and we'll end up with peace on that issue for the first time in 52 years. I'm not going to say I would or I wouldn't. I mean, DeSantis is willing to sign a 5-week and 6-week ban.
Would you support that? You think that goes too far? I think
what he did is a terrible thing and a terrible mistake.
All right. So there's a minute of Trump on the issue of life and abortion.
Right.
Will this answer matter to anyone? What is he attempting to do here? Does it matter?
I don't want to use the word refreshing with Trump, but he's one of these guys who is not overthinking and panicking about what to say, and so he says nothing at all. Oh, he just says it. It's in his mind, and he's like, this is how I feel. I mean, he can, weeks from now, say something completely different and say, no, you got it wrong or you misunderstood me. But the thing is, he always gives an answer, whether or not you like it or not.
Yeah.
He's just telling you how he feels. So, I mean, there are a lot of people, obviously, in the pro-life movement who would not be happy with what he had to say, but at least at this moment, what his thinking is and where he stands. Doesn't matter in the end. No, if he's the nominee, it's not going to make a difference. It is interesting that he is looking at 15 weeks, and I think that is a compromise point because they don't mention this often, but as you know, relative to many countries in Western Europe, that's about the same.
Right.
Around the same time.
Even slightly more liberal than many.
Yeah, absolutely.
Europe,
and countries that we hold up and put on a pedestal. that it's comparable to that as a reasonable stop. And, you're not going to just, he's not going to support, and you're not going to have an all-out ban on abortion, full stop, across the board. That's just not going to happen at this point. But I thought it was Trump being Trump.
It is. Yes. No, he sort of pundits live from the seat occasionally when he should be answering questions as a nominee. But that can be revealing. And I think this is revealing because I think it's just what he thinks.
Yeah.
Now, strategically, there are two different audiences here. One, there's a primary audience, particularly in Iowa, that is very pro-life.
Sure.
Then there is a general election audience, to whom I think this could be a more appealing audience. That pro-life audience, though, particularly activists, is going to hear 6 weeks is a terrible thing and think, no, it's not.
Right.
And we appreciate people who signed those bills. Now, there are several Republican governors who have signed those bills and sort of counter to the conventional wisdom on this have performed extremely well in elections after that because they are competent messengers and they are competent executives. So you can succeed with those kinds of pieces of legislation. The thing to me that's interesting about this is, my friends over at Ruthless, who I like a lot, suggested maybe he's pivoting to the general election with this answer.
Sure.
I don't think it's strategic that way. I think this is just what he believes. My concern is, and should be a concern for pro-lifers for sure, is that he's telegraphing very clearly what his position is and where he wants to end up in negotiations.
That's right.
You think you're going to end up at 15 weeks if you start telling them now you want to be at 15 weeks? That is not the negotiator that I have heard has written the book called Art of the Deal. I don't think that's going to be helpful to you because you're going up against people who, look, he is correct that Democratic voters and American voters are not where the party leadership is on this, but the party leadership has had a chance over and over again to vote for any limitation before 40 weeks and refuses to do it.
Right.
So that's who you're negotiating with. Stop telling them where you want to end up.
Right. You're saying that he should have shot for like 20.
Or just hold fast to a pro-life position. By the way, he wants credit for overturning Roe. He put the people on the court.
Right.
Well, now it's back at the states, and now he's going to be mad that the states are making different laws. That was the whole point.
Right. He's never been the most ardently pro-life president, even though he's changed his positions over the years on a lot of things, including abortion. Although then he knew that it was also politically advantageous to actually be the only president to really vocally appear at the March for Life and give a talk at the March, give a speech, albeit online, but nevertheless. It does open up a flank to his right for candidates on the issue of abortion, and depending on how you feel about it. But those voters then have to take that into the equation, but it's only part of that, because the other part is, can this other candidate win on all the other issues against the Democrat? And the thing is, right now, Trump's lead in the primary, it's a sizable margin.
Enormous.
So he could probably get away with saying something like this.
He would say.
Right. He could say this, and there'll be a lot of grumbling, but then he doesn't have to tack towards the center after the primary's done.
I did see, shall we say, more pointed grumbling from many of my friends who are Trump supportive than I normally see. This was one that made people a little more annoyed than usual. We'll see if that has staying power.
Grumbling, and I might look at other candidates who are grumbling, but I can't believe I'm voting for this guy.
A combination. Yeah. Speaking of people we can't believe are in the public eye, can we go to Hunter Biden?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I know what you're giggling about. We're going to get there.
Okay, yeah.
We're going to get there, people. But first we're doing...
So my hands, sorry.
First we're doing Hunter. Keep him up here.
Yeah, up here. Hands up here.
Hunter Biden.
Over the sheet.
The absolute balls on this guy.
Yes.
Hunter Biden has sued the Internal Revenue Service, alleging its agents illegally released his tax information and that the agency failed to protect his private records. President Joe Biden's son alleges the IRS unlawfully disclosed his tax return information and did not establish safeguards to ensure the confidentiality of his records. He is seeking, among other things, all documents involving the disclosure of the tax information, $1,000 for each unauthorized disclosure, and attorney's fees. Slow clap for the nerve.
Yeah.
Clap.
It's the classic countersuit move.
I mean, spectacular. Now, to me, this is obviously a sign that, look, a bunch of people are aligned in the DOJ to protect me. You whistleblowers can do your best, but guess what? I'm going to make your life hell. Now, he is suing the IRS, not these specific guys, I believe, who were whistleblowers.
He's tried to intimidate, his lawyers have tried to intimidate the whistleblowers in the past, but apparently that hasn't worked, and so he's going after the entire federal agency, which is obviously overseen by his father.
Now, Shapley, who's one of the guys who he's sort of after here, there's a reference to an interview that he did with CBS, noting that there were personal expenses called business expenses, including prostitutes, sex club memberships, hotel rooms for purported drug dealers. I do feel like you sort of give up some of your right to anonymity when you're breaking the laws in these ways that are fairly flagrant. And then these guys have to come out and say, we're trying to use the normal process to go after a person who's very clearly not within the law. But you know what? Yeah. Here we are, so he'll probably win.
That's true. Nothing should surprise us.
He gets his child support cut, and he's going to get thousands of dollars from the IRS.
Well, the child support cut was because she got priceless works of art.
Mm-hmm.
Like that that recently discovered Van Gogh.
Beautiful.
Okay, so what's interesting is I think his lawyers, Abby Lowell, who I did meet once, and he's exactly as you would imagine him to be, and his other lawyers are either very good or they're very bad. But across the board, they're shameless.
Well, that's my question. Yeah. Do you think this is him wanting to do this, and his lawyers are like, "Man, this probably isn't a good idea.
We're going to do it,"
and then they have to do it anyway because they're his lawyers. Like they can advise him, but they can't tell him not to do idiotic things.
It's also in the same spirit of their trying to sue the poor blind computer repairman.
Oh my gosh!
For sharing
right.
the laptop that he did not want to admit was his.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying this is my laptop, but we are suing you for sharing that laptop.
The suit gets pretty explicit, by the way. These agents' putative whistleblower status cannot and does not shield them from their wrongful conduct in making unauthorized public disclosures that are not permitted by the whistleblower process. By the way, I just note that no one, press, public figures, just anyone, media, cares about disclosures of, lies made up about Mitt Romney's taxes by his fellow Senator Harry Reid on the floor of the Senate. Nobody cares about various agents leaking public figures' returns to ProPublica. There's not even curiosity about any of this. So I just forgive me if I'm not convinced that I should be outraged about this one.
I was thinking also about, our friend Abe Greenwald at Commentary, and who's got a wonderful review coming up this Sunday in the Weekend Beacon, he had an observation, which is, Hunter's defense team, they're maintaining, this is tangential to this IRS lawsuit, but they maintain that Hunter did nothing wrong, right?
Sure.
He did nothing wrong.
Except he taped himself doing things wrong all the time.
Number one. Number two, in the plea deal that disintegrated, they were insisting on immunity from past, present, and future federal crimes.
Right.
If they did nothing wrong, why are they so concerned about an immunity
for
future federal crime? I mean, that's, so
should you find something I have done wrong, you will not be allowed to prosecute me.
Yeah.
Still, by the way, good on that judge. The only person in this process who has been like, wait 1 second, what are we doing?
Right, and I don't think enough attention. I mean, we obviously shed a lot of light on this here on this great podcast, but I don't think enough attention has been paid to Andrew Weiss's. It's Andrew Weiss, right? Who is the prosecutor, and his sort of willingness to comply with the defense.
Yes.
On this deal.
Well, and
only being caught in the act by when the judge starts asking questions about ongoing investigations and immunity.
Right.
Is the prosecutor embarrassed and has to say, actually, no, it's ongoing, and no, it doesn't protect him, because that would sound crazy. Well, but of course, if the judge didn't ask, I think this would be a done deal.
Well, and this is what experienced prosecutors who are watching all of this keep saying, like, Weiss is acting like the defense lawyer, right?
Right.
He's not acting like the prosecutor.
Correction. It's David Weiss, not Andrew Weiss. Maybe I'm thinking of Andrew Weissman.
Maybe so.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, David Weiss. We got it.
See what happens when we're live like this? It's not live, actually.
You wanna move on to some more public misconduct?
Please.
Okay.
All right.
Taped and released.
Yeah, sure. I think that's yes. I was thinking if I had anything else on our friend Hunter, but there'll be more.
There will be more. There will always be more.
Let's get to this other issue.
Yeah, let's get to some more public misconduct. Colorado Congresswoman Lauren Boebert was kicked out of a matinee performance of the Beetlejuice musical in Denver last week, allegedly for making some sort of disruption.
Yeah.
At the time, she said, this is basically nonsense. And then I think she copped to, it's a verb, to laughing too loud.
Yes.
It turns out, though, and here's the thing. When you deny stuff in public, those who you are saying are lying, for instance, the staff at the Denver facility where this performance happened, they often have access to tape of you. And in this case...
We live in a different time. It's no longer just your word against theirs.
Yeah. They had tape of her in the theater. Right. Now, one of the allegations was that she was vaping in the theater. And she said, no, I wasn't vaping, but I was laughing too loud.
She said there was is it the dry ice smoke machine?
Sure, yeah. Well, Beetlejuice is very creepy production.
You
got to
have see anybody else's breath, but just hers.
So the tape shows that she was indeed vaping. It's very, very clear. Mm-hmm. By the way, I didn't know that cameras could see that much of me in a matinee performance of Beetlejuice. Just FYI, and I guess she didn't either.
I have a question. It was black and white. The footage is black and white. Mm-hmm. Was it dark, or is it like one of these infrared cams, or was the light on?
So I've seen two versions. In one version, it's infrared-ish.
Oh, wow.
And in another, it looks like it's lit and in color, which means probably she was making a disturbance during intermission or before the show and during the show. But she's definitely vaping.
Yeah.
And then there were some other activities. Sort of much like the gardening we spoke about. Some light gardening, I think, was happening.
Well, I wanted to mention...
She was Bo and the Bert.
Wow. I wanted to mention her date.
Yeah.
Her date is a guy who they don't share the same political opinions, obviously. He runs this bar that does drag shows on, brunch, and he is a Democrat. But he's the kind of guy that likes to reach across the aisle.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Yeah. Your thoughts, Mary Katharine? I have thoughts, but please.
Okay, so let me note also, she is going through a divorce. She announced that she was divorcing in the spring. She has 4 sons. I want everybody to end up in a good place after that. Her, this is tough on her family. She's clearly dating again. Embarrassing that this would come out in this way. But you know how it wouldn't have if she had just said, oh, yeah, I messed up. And, I was vaping and my apologies. And we probably wouldn't have gotten here. Do I think that this should be a national news story, which I am now exacerbating by talking about it? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I believe it was Nate Silver argued that it shouldn't be and that she was kicked out of the theater. She's probably banned from the theater.
Oh, sure.
And that might be enough to cover it. But I do think, look, obviously, if you put yourself in this position and you have, so to speak, and you have lost your last re-election by 0.07%, some 500 votes, people are going to take advantage of this, as they should. It would be political malpractice not to make this an issue for her.
Yeah, they can run that tape over and over during, election season for her. I have so many questions here.
I bet you do.
So my first question is, Beetlejuice is now a musical? That was my first question.
That's the first question and the one I can answer within the bounds of our non-explicit flag.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's go to the others and see how I do.
I have more questions. Okay. Is it participatory like the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
I don't think so.
Okay. Because if it was, right, in Rocky Horror Picture Show, if people remember back in the 70s and 80s, it was crazy because it became this cult film. It didn't actually do well at the time, but became this thing. Everyone gets dressed up and standing.
Go to the midnight showing, you do the dance. Yes.
The whole deal. Okay, so this is not that.
Our young listeners are like what is this?
No idea.
Look it up.
We're doing. Rocky Horror Picture Show. So it was mainly just her really getting into the musical. Okay.
Indeed.
I have another concern.
Mm-hmm.
She was videotaping the performance.
I do think that
she
was
got in trouble.
That was allegedly part of it too. But was that the first version of offenses? And then we watched the video, and some other offenses took precedence over the
because you see this a lot.
That's an IP. It
is number one
an issue for us.
Number two, I always want to, and I see so many people who are no longer in the moment of the concert; they're actually recording it. If I see my child performing and I have to record it, I feel like I'm not actually.
I thought you meant, and I have to watch my child perform.
No, I don't mean it that way. I mean that in the sense I'd rather be home. I'd rather be drinking. No, I mean in the sense of I'd rather just be watching the show instead, because now you're paying attention to everything else, and it's not quite the same. So, not enough people are in the moment anymore. Although I guess she was in the moment.
She
in some
felt
other ways.
in the moment.
She was in the moment. Fine. The other thing is, I always want to ask these people who are constantly videotaping this stuff: is it that good that you're going to go home late and say, I need to see that number,
Definitely
that
not.
musical
Nope.
number again?
Nope.
I was in, this is not a musical, but I was in the Vatican, right? This is in 2018. And I was at where Pope John Paul II is buried. Saint Pope John Paul II is buried there. So everyone
really
there
hoping you didn't get kicked out for the same stuff.
No. So it was, no, not at all. Everybody's there. You're praying, doing the whole thing. It's very solemn. And then some, obviously a lot of tourists. A woman comes up. She goes up to the main kneeler, front and center in front, and she takes out her video. No, she's not taking a photo of it, okay? I can see it. She's not. So, and I wanted to ask her, I don't know where she was from, but I wanted to ask her, later on, you're going to think, I need to see the video of Pope John Paul II's, tomb. I really need to look at that video, not a photo.
Yeah.
But the video. So what's going on there? Makes no sense. Okay, enough about that. That was my one thing. The second thing is this, and this is here's my defense of Lauren Boebert, okay?
Okay.
Earnest defense. We know for a fact she's going through a divorce.
Yes.
Okay, that is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Let us assume that because she has gotten to the point where she no longer wants to be married to Jason Boebert, right? She's getting divorced. That she has probably spent the last weeks, months, maybe year or two in a loveless marriage. Let me just say this, loveless. I'll put it that way.
They seem to be, living in separate places and have been for quite some time.
Okay. So she's out on a date with somebody who's interested in her for the first time in years, and she just wants to
just
let off some steam.
Just cut loose a little bit.
Cut loose a little bit.
Okay.
That's that. I'm going to give her that. All right, here's my question. So that's my defense. Yes, right, Jennifer. That's my defense. Is because
I'm not surprised.
It's pent up. It's pent up, and that's what's happening. Emotions. The emotions are pent up.
She's been through a winter, and the spring has come, and it's time to garden again.
Thank you. Gardening. It's time for the gardening.
That's what we're saying.
Here's my question to you. What we saw is that, well, the real Lauren Boebert, please stand up, right? Is that because we know the Lauren Boebert from Freedom Caucus, from the was it Freedom Caucus?
Probably.
Yeah, the one with Matt Gaetz and MTG, that whole gang. We know what she stands for, her opinions and all these different things. And she's there, on Capitol Hill and her beliefs. And then you see this side of her with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Same, different, the real one?
Well, and this is the charge, is that if you're going to run as a Christian conservative, then you sort of have to uphold your values in a public place inside a theater. I had a moment of sort of encouragement in that the Daily Beast, first of all, they won't be going on a second date. The Daily Beast revealed that this was a first date. And look.
Were they both drinking?
I don't know. But I found some comfort about our society in the fact that a lot of people seem to be like, wow, first date? And I thought, oh, what a sort of sweet and naive take that so many people are having that they would be surprised.
That would happen on a first date.
I was like, look at this. This is adorable. What is it, 40 years ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I liked that a lot of people had that reaction.
Yeah, that it was a first date and
they were surprised.
They were surprised that you would vape on a first date.
Mm-hmm, that's what they were surprised by.
Okay.
So, anyway, we did the segment. It was tacky, but we did it anyway, which is what she said.
Ow. I think he enjoyed himself, but that now because of the media, the press attention, he can't go on a second date. I think he would want to.
Yeah.
Although I wouldn't like getting kicked out of anywhere. It's embarrassing.
She also said, she's got to vet her dates a little better because she didn't know this was a drag queen bar owner.
Well, all right. Well, that explains. See, more in her defense.
Anyway,
more in her defense.
Certainly her opponent from last time, Adam Frisch, is already taking
All
advantage
over
of
that.
this.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
another notch in the belt of embarrassment, he said. Speaking of which, let's talk about John Fetterman and the new rule change in the Senate,
Yeah.
where you don't need belts or notches, and you get tons of embarrassment.
Drawstrings.
Yeah. So, this is Axios Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer quietly has directed the Senate's Sergeant at Arms to no longer enforce the chamber's informal dress code for its members. Axios has learned. I love that Axios does them a favor of calling it an informal dress code. It's not an informal dress code that the senators are required to wear suits on the floor. That's not an informal dress code. That's just what it's been for all of time.
Yeah.
Okay. Why it matters. The new directive will allow Senator John Fetterman, Democrat of Pennsylvania, who tends to favor gym shorts and hoodies over the business attire traditionally required in the chamber, to linger on the Senate floor before and after votes. Senators are able to choose what they wear on the Senate floor. I will continue to wear a suit, Schumer said in a statement to Axios. Fetterman, who was elected last year, initially followed Senate tradition and wore suits, but since returning to the Senate after being treated for clinical depression earlier this year, he frequently has sported the casual look he was known for as Pennsylvania's lieutenant governor. I mean, it's not even sweatpants.
No, it's gym shorts.
It's sweat short. They're like, it's like Belichick pants to the Senate floor.
Okay, I have a lot of deep thoughts on this, but before we get to the deep thoughts, just on the surface, the question is why, right? Why did Schumer push for this?
Let me also say, by the way, this doesn't apply to staffers.
Oh, yeah, no.
visitors.
If you were a man, if you are a male staffer, you still have to wear a coat and a tie on the Senate floor. It just applies to the senators.
Yes.
And, but this has nothing per se. His fashion choice is nothing, shouldn't have anything to do with his stroke.
No, this is just, how many senators have we had in wheelchairs with disabilities who have all somehow, Senator Cleland, somehow worn suits.
Max Cleland. That's
with no issue. He can wear a suit.
Is it because he's misshapen? He's very tall in the neck. Have you seen the neck? There's I'm not one to talk.
I'd like to meet his tailor.
Really, it must be very difficult.
I would say
I'm not even saying that as a joke. It's the neck. I mean, like my neck.
You and your earnest defenses today.
I'm all about earnest defenses today. 17 and a half size neck. Okay, that's my neck size. So his must be enormous.
No, I would say his proportions are unconventional. That's true.
Yes. So does this mean like Chuck Grassley's going to come in a tank top now?
Dude, he should. He should come in from his run.
Yeah.
And just roll up in some silkies and a tank
silkies.
top.
That's good. Here is my thought, and I know this from having seen it in experience. Comfort is great. I love comfort.
Yes.
Comfortable. If I'm at home, I know some people, my father-in-law, he'll wear, his button down. He'll come back from the office. He's got his slacks on, his button down shirt, and his shoes on till like 11 p.m. And it's like, he's got it on the entire time.
Yeah, he doesn't Mr. Rogers anything.
No. I get home, I immediately want to
get Mr. Rogers' is around the house outfit is like 4 steps above what we now allow senators to wear on the floor.
That's right.
Okay,
that's
go
right.
ahead.
But if you wear the comfortable outfit in a formal setting, like work, your office, the United States Senate, it encourages you to behave in a more comfortable manner. Let's just say that.
Right.
And let's say that, everything from your posture to your slouching to your, I've got a scratch, it's going to happen. Do you remember the famous photo of Russell Crowe in a coffee shop talking to this nice girl? And he was wearing, because he had put on a lot of weight for a role, I'm sure. And he was wearing sweatpants. And sure enough, because it's elastic, he had an itch and the press caught it. Look it up. Or don't look it up. Anyway, that's my warning.
Video for our folks to watch
it is a lot for this episode. So it's not good. It doesn't encourage the right things, I think.
So I feel like I'm a casual dresser in general, right?
But fashionable. You're fashionable.
I have skated on being like the new media person for a long time. Like when I came to Washington, I was like, I don't have to wear suits like you guys. I do blogs. That was
your brand.
I'm showing up casual. That's my brand, right? I'm sort of
that.
circumventing this.
Sure.
However, if there's a place where you should uphold a certain level of dress code, the floor of the U.S. Congress, Senate and House, is a good place to do that. By the way, I think the House should totally hold this over. Those snobs over at the Senate who are always acting like they're better than the House. House should be like, I don't know, we wear like dress clothes over here.
The tables are finally turned.
Right.
They're always getting made fun of.
They should totally make fun of the Senate for this. I do think you should uphold a certain standard there. And let me just say this. As a woman, the first woman was elected to the House of Representatives in 1916. It was, I favor a sleeveless look. I don't like sleeves. I don't want to wear them. It took until 2017 for women to be allowed by the rules to wear open-toed shoes or sleeveless sheath dresses.
Wow.
101 years. For John Fetterman, we changed the rules in under a year. Under a year.
Yeah. The rules that have been in place for a very long time.
I say Mr. Fetterman can have his rule change in 100 more years. He just has to hold out for it.
I hate to rain on your parade, but we have 5 more years of John Fetterman.
I know.
And it is worth remembering that he won the Senate race and how he won. And I can't help but look, I just can't help but think that if David McCormick were to have won the Republican primary in Pennsylvania over Dr. Oz, maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation.
I think that's probably true. Let me throw in Susan Collins's quote on this. She says, changing the Senate dress code, quote, debases the institution, joking she will wear a bikini tomorrow. Obviously, I'm not going to wear a bikini, she said, but the fact is, as I understand it, I could. Now let me offer you some real wisdom from Jennifer Rubin over at the Washington Post. She replies, this woman actually represents an entire state. Margaret Chase Smith, she is not. Oh. So just to get this straight from the conservative blogger at the Washington Post.
The conservative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Susan Collins is the problem for noting that she could wear whatever she wants to the Senate floor now, including a bikini. And John Fetterman is A-OK with the hoodie and the sweat shorts. I'm not going to call them gym shorts. I feel like that's too dignified. Sweat shorts. Basketball shorts. Is that what they are?
Yeah, they're terrible. I mean, I guess it works because he's a giant. But the problem is, again, if they're on one side, if Republicans are on one side and they say something and you're somebody like Jen Rubin, then you have to be on the other side.
Go the other side.
You just have to be on the other side.
Yeah. Well, I think they should call their bluff and just show up in some outlandish stuff. It'll be Halloween day. Just costumes, your favorite jersey.
Yeah, no.
Let's do it, folks. All right. So that's that story. Decline is a choice, Vic.
Yeah, it is.
I feel like maybe I'm just an old now, but I do feel like, and I also sometimes feel this way about church. Even though I like to dress casually for church, I'm like, maybe we should pull it together a little bit.
I'm getting better on that front. I used to wear shorts and even sandals or whatever to church,
I feel like you guys
back in the day. I feel like
you guys are tougher on it. The Catholics are tougher on it. I go to an evangelical place,
I'm
non-denominational. They don't care.
My son dresses better than I do when I go to church. I just,
All right, a little bit more serious matter, and I do want to get your expertise on this.
Oh, yes.
Vic. Yeah. A missing jet.
Yeah.
We lost a jet? Okay, let me just...
You lost another sub? That's my Hunt for Red October movie one.
The U.S. military lost a jet. By the way, there's a theme here of sort of societal decline and institutional decline right here. So this is the U.S. Marines. An F-35 was out. The pilot, thank goodness, ejected and safely parachuted in a landing in a North Charleston neighborhood. And then we couldn't find the jet for more than 24 hours. It was a long...
Phantom jets and Chinese surveillance balloons. They all go to Charleston.
Yeah. So this is quite a story. So it was on autopilot when and after the pilot ejected. The United States military said the transponder wasn't working, so they weren't able to track it at some point during its phantom flight. They were looking in a couple of lakes north of Charleston, didn't spot it. Somehow we have no redneck iPhone footage of an F-35 just casually floating over South Carolina airspace, which I think we should. Not that I'm suggesting anything. And then Then, this is my favorite part of the story. Now, there has been a debris field found.
Yes, this is it.
But before that, let me just say that Joint Base Charleston tweeted, pilot ejected safely. If you have any information that may help our recovery teams locate the F-35, please call the Base Defense Operations Center. And then it gives a hotline. The U.S. military gave a hotline for tips to find an F-35. First of all, if a redneck finds an F-35, finders keepers. Finders keepers.
It goes in the backyard.
Park it on top of the Waffle House.
You got cement blocks. You can just prop it up. I've seen, the movie.
Drag it over to the lake.
No, I mean the movie
for a weekend.
Jewel of the Nile, and Michael Douglas takes the F-16 without wings and it just firing away, the machine gun there.
Yeah.
So it's very exciting.
Top Gun Maverick action.
Yes.
Just take it for a ride.
I assume it crashed when it ran out of fuel, or did it just go into a
Okay, I don't know how far.
Dive.
I don't know how far these things can go.
They got good range.
That's what I would think.
Depending on how much fuel
they found it in Williamsburg County, South Carolina. So
luckily,
it hasn't covered a ton of ground.
Luckily, not in a town. You can imagine. This is insane.
Yes.
So, so basically,
it's strange.
So basically, what the Pentagon was asking was, "Have you seen this jet?" But they didn't want to say that, like on a milk carton. Have you seen this jet? And a picture of a Lightning too.
Yeah.
Okay. When I first heard the story, I worried because I didn't know if the pilot had ejected. Right, initially. And I thought, is this one of these hypoxia stories where it's like Payne Stewart on the plane, And then, okay, he ejected. Well, then why did he eject? What happened? Some sort of a malfunction? They're not telling us that.
Yeah, we haven't heard that yet.
That is unclear. Okay.
It's called a mishap at the moment.
A mishap.
And there's certain levels of mishaps with aircraft of a certain cost. And there have actually been 2 other accidents with other aircraft in the past 6 weeks or so. With the Marines, several causing fatalities. So we're glad that this one does not have that part, but certainly a strange story. It says members of the community should avoid the area. This is a statement from the military. As recovery teams secure the debris field, which I said was found in Williamsburg County, South Carolina. The discovery came after an array of government and civilian agencies had spent more than 24 hours searching for the missing F-35. It doesn't make me feel great.
That's a lot of souvenirs out there.
Yeah.
For people to have from an F-35. No, it doesn't. And it is interesting. The F-35 it's the Joint Strike Fighter, right? It was there was a huge bidding war for this prototype plane between Boeing and Lockheed Martin, and Lockheed Martin ultimately won. What makes it special is it has this short takeoff and landing capabilities, so it's kind of a cross between an F-18 and a Harrier jet.
Okay.
And it's the kind of, so you don't need a long runway which the Air Force likes to use, obviously. And you can use it on aircraft carriers, so it's cross purposes. You mentioned Marines. So all the armed forces, basically, can use the Joint Strike Fighter, and it's very sellable, so you can sell to other countries. It has some stealth capabilities, but not a lot. It is not in my opinion, the premier air superiority fighter craft of the United States. There are foreign countries that claim to have better planes than we are, and sadly, they might be true. But in the United States, the F-22 Raptor is the better plane, but it needs a longer runway, and it has stealth. And it has something called, they don't do afterburners, it's something called Super Cruise, which I can't even explain because it's classified.
Oh.
No, I can't explain it because
you got to get down to that debris field.
It's classified, and they won't tell me what it is. And I have a friend who, who worked there. Can't tell you, but it's pretty good stuff. It's not that. But nevertheless, what's happening here? It's a little embarrassing, and they should consider themselves lucky that this incident didn't happen where the plane just happened to fly over into, I don't know, China or Russia.
Well, yes, right? By the way, I think Representative Nancy Mace, South Carolina Republican who represents the area down there, speaks for all of us when she says, how in the hell do you lose an F-35? We're asking the public to what? Find a jet and turn it in? I think these are fair questions, Nancy
again,
Mace.
it's like another submarine in a hunt for Red October.
Again, it's worrisome because it feels like I want to have confidence in the institutions, as we have discussed, and yet they keep giving me reasons to have no confidence. And the military is one of the few that has public trust at this point. And so very obvious, serious mishaps like this one are going to be a problem.
It's an aging lineup of fighter planes. The F-15, for example, had previous incidents over the years of the fuselage breaking apart. And it's an old line, and We need to do more on defense. We've always said that, though.
Yeah,
we've maintained
we are very
that here.
consistent here. Although I did hear scuttlebutt, and again, not that I'm implying anything, but I did hear scuttlebutt from folks who work in security and defense issues who are concerned about the idea of autopilots being able to be hacked, that kind of thing being, flown to some other place, and that these are cyber concerns we should worry about. When you put cyber in front of it, it means it's like, I'm a serious old person talking about this idea. Cyber is such an outdated term.
It's a series of
cybersecurity concerns.
Okay. Yeah.
But I have heard of such concerns.
I was going to say, I just want to leave our listeners and viewers with 2 words: Terminator Genesis. It's a bad idea.
All right, you know what? While we're talking about institutions we don't trust,
oh boy,
like I said, the thing that made me concerned about this is that the military is one of the institutions that maintains public trust. So let's keep that up.
Sort of.
But the CDC. Oh, have we got a message for you guys?
CDC 2.0
from Mandy Cohen, former North Carolina public health official, now the head of the CDC, taking the place of Rochelle Walensky.
Yes.
The new CDC director spent her first 2 months on the job telling audiences in New York, Wisconsin, and Washington State the agency has made mistakes, a mea culpa of sorts, meant to show that she understands past shortcomings. What she wants to do, you see, is win back trust. Okay, here's a quote from her. "Trust is easily broken, and as folks know, trust takes time to rebuild," Cohen told Politico. "It isn't something you can fix overnight. I know that this is a long-term way of thinking about it." Her trust tour, which has several more stops in the works, comes as the Biden administration begins its latest COVID-19 vaccine push, and at a time when her agency faces scrutiny over its decisions and messaging during the pandemic. She is contending with a public that has, for the most part, moved beyond COVID, and growing vaccine skepticism fueled by some presidential candidates and public health officials. She goes on to note that the Florida Surgeon General and Ron DeSantis
what do they know?
Have suggested that maybe those who are healthy and under 65 don't need to take the new version of the vaccine.
The bivalent booster?
Just recently. It's actually, I don't even think this one's a booster. I think it's a reformulated one, just approved by the FDA.
That's right.
Last week, she says, "It's important for Americans to get these shots. I want to make sure folks know, particularly in Florida, that vaccination remains a safe way in terms of protecting against severe disease, hospitalization, and death." Okay. Most European countries, by the way, are not recommending further shots for 65 and younger. Certainly not young, healthy people. Certainly not 6 months and up.
6 months.
Which is the recommendation from our CDC, which is out of line with pretty much the rest of the globe. The fact is that the Florida Surgeon General and DeSantis have a point about, in particular, this vaccine.
That's right.
But we're just going to hand wave that.
I love, what's her name again?
Mandy Cohen.
Mandy Cohen. Her formulation about trust is easily broken is what she said. That's a great passive structure, isn't it? Who broke the trust? I don't know. It's a mystery. What you'd like to hear them is just fess up and say, yeah, we got some things wrong. We're going to do better. Give us some, just an ounce of accountability, but, but they can't do that. So here's what's interesting. The New York Times had an article on everything you need to know about the latest variants, right? And there's 2. There's the widespread one that's out there already, EG5. And then the other one that is in China, but it's not quite here. You don't really see it as much yet. It's BA 2.86, which according to the Times, and I want to read it here, quote, has scientists alarmed at its multiple mutations, meaning that it mutates so often, it's hard to get a vaccine current enough to block the effects of this virus. But please get the vaccine anyway, because it'll be good it lasts for 3 months until you need another one. The non-human tested one, if you remember, the non-human tested one. So you have to actually go several graphs down and find out that the symptoms are mild.
Yeah.
So please, you might feel like you have a cold. Take the vaccine that probably doesn't work, and the effectiveness in general is 3 months. But, because you don't want to feel like you have the cold.
Wasn't it an NBC story this week? There was some headline on Twitter that was like, doctors having trouble distinguishing between allergies, the common cold, and this new uptick in COVID.
It could be. That's why you got to get tested.
You're almost there, guys. Yeah, no. Their argument is like, we probably need a better test. Nope. That's not the answer. Go the other direction.
Yes, exactly. The push to get everyone vaccinated, revaccinated, or get the boosters or the bivalent, whatever. There was a previous attempt to do this in the last round, and it failed. Arlington County, Virginia, which is an extremely blue county.
Right.
The vaccination rate for people who are up to date on their vaccinations, 21%. Yeah. 1 in 5. So basically 80%.
That county's about as good as you're going to do.
That is as good as you're going to do. That 80% of the county's like, no, I'm feeling fine. I think I'm going to be okay, and I'll get over it.
Well,
so good luck to them.
Here's what's interesting, too. Again, we are a global outlier, and I feel it is necessary to point that out every time I talk about this, because people act, certainly on Twitter, as if you're being some sort of weirdo when you suggest that maybe this is not the most effective tack for young and healthy people. Also, show me the data. The data's not there. Marty Makary, doctor, was talking to Guy Benson on his show, and we'll have a little audio of that.
And track them for 3 months or more, not just 2 weeks. I mean, this is making.
Well, hang on. Let's just pause this, because I'm trying to compute this in my brain right now, and I think you're making absolutely just no-brainer critiques of Moderna at the moment, and we'll return to that. But Moderna at least tested this on a few dozen human beings and admitted that there was some adverse effect. The Pfizer one you said was tested on 10 mice, and that's it?
That's right. We have zero human data. Only 10 mice. Hey, look, they got away with it last time with the bivalent. They know that the regulatory process to get this approved is totally greased. President Biden was out there saying that this thing works and everyone needs to get it before the FDA even, approved it. So that the thing was greased. It speaks.
What does
to this
he know, though? I mean, with all due respect to President Biden, what does he know? The whole reason that we have these agencies, at least supposedly, is to do due diligence to make sure when someone says, yes, please inject this substance into your body, it is going to have the intended effect and not have unintended bad effects. That's the whole job. And if they aren't even testing it and they're just waving it through because some politicians want them to and they feel like it's probably fine, what's the point of the FDA?
Well, they've clearly created a new pathway specifically for Moderna and Pfizer. And the pathway is do whatever you want. You don't have to show us anything, really.
And then he goes on to say it was caused by the vaccine. They're being quite tight-lipped about it. And furthermore, not to focus on just this one adverse event, the point is run a real trial.
Yeah.
Give it to 1,000 people and give us the data. Yeah. And neither of these folks can, partly because just Moderna and Pfizer and regulators have been just hand in hand throughout this whole process. And if they don't have to do that, why would they do that? If you're going to buy 20 million doses and pass them out, they don't need to do that.
Well, the other reason you want to be tight-lipped is because you don't want to discourage people from getting the vaccine.
Right. And we're going to get our flag for this. But
by the way, that's also the same reason why people got censored, because, we're not saying what they're saying is lie when people were, speculating about a lab leak, for example,
right.
Or people who are suffering some other, adverse medical events, as Dr. Marty Makary says. They're not saying that it didn't happen, but they're saying it could discourage, and just mere discouragement from doing this is reason enough to block you.
Well, and some will say,
or us,
they're formulating a vaccine that they sort of hope will be effective against future versions of COVID. Right. And it's a bit like the flu vaccine, and they're sort of guessing and offering that. But they're not being straight with us about what they do and do not know. With the flu vaccine, many people know, okay, I'm taking this at the beginning of the season. I don't know exactly how effective it's going to be. Right. Also, flu is much more dangerous for young children than COVID.
Yeah.
So the cost-benefit analysis is different for that. I do think they're trying to sort of turn the COVID vaccine into a flu-like regimen, flu vaccine regimen, where they just recommend it to everyone. But to me, the cost-benefit analysis is very different.
Yeah.
And they're not straight with you. That's the thing.
Yeah,
just tell me what you know and don't know. And it's funny because in this Politico piece, Cohen keeps going on about how you just need to, she's being more open about what she doesn't know. Meanwhile, she's telling you these things that are not backed by data.
Yeah, but just do it.
There was another COVID thing.
CIA.
By the way.
The CIA.
I am going to get to the CIA.
Okay, yes.
First, did you know the federal government is definitely appealing its loss on the free speech grounds?
Oh, yes, I do.
Yes.
I do. This is the Fifth Circuit
Just in case
ruling.
you guys thought that maybe the administration would be like, dang, maybe we shouldn't have censored people.
And there is at the moment a temporary hold on that ruling, so that in fact, the government can continue now
just in case,
telling social media to clamp down without getting it.
Clamp down on us. The problem.
We'll see. If you're watching this, be brave. Okay.
Oh, yeah. And then the CIA, by the way. This is some whistleblowers saying that the CIA had a hand in making sure that the lab leak theory did not gain ground, even though allegedly they had the intel to make a pretty good guess that might have been it. The CIA, for its part, says it's looking into this, but much like debris fields that you can't go near, I'm sure we won't know a lot of details. Not that I'm implying anything.
It is, again, worth remembering that this is all the result of an extremely narrow victory by Republicans in the House in the midterm election. And it's a very extremely narrow.
Because this is all coming out in the
oversight. They're coming out in hearings and oversight hearings. And for any number of these subjects. And had it not happened this way, had Republicans not just barely prevailed, we wouldn't know about this. We wouldn't have the IRS whistleblowers.
And you know what? Nothing. We'd be healthier as a result, Vic.
Ignorance is bliss, I guess.
Do we have anything silly to close out with today?
No, that was it. But
should we find something?
Well, it's okay. There'll be.
I mean,
the
Boebert story was silly enough.
Was kind of that was silly, and it sort of offsets the. You know what? But we want to point out, by the way, on the show that we do both sides because. Sorry, that didn't sound too good either. No, but I mean, I meant because we covered Susanna Gibson, and now we did Lauren Boebert.
That's correct.
That's right. And you know what? And
Bipartisan gardening news here on Getting Hammered.
I resisted a line about Susanna Gibson on the last episode where I was going to say that she took live streaming to a whole new level. Okay, that wraps up
You've
this
been so
episode.
tame on both of these stories.
I know.
Very impressive.
Well, it's a family show.
You're going to let
it's
down
a family
the audience.
video, too. That wraps up this episode of Getting Hammered. Remember, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. And you can find us on Instagram and obviously YouTube. If you're watching this, you know that. You can follow me on Twitter at Victorina Matus.
I am at MK Hammer on Twitter, at MK Hammer Time on Instagram. You can find the podcast at Getting Hammered Podcast on Instagram and YouTube because Jennifer has it all together and actually gives us the right names on all the platforms, which is what you should do. That's best practices, not what I'm doing. Vic, I'm all over the place. And I'm wearing this sleeveless thing.
That's how we roll.
I can't get to the Senate unless I wear my hoodie. Next time. All right. Thanks for getting hammered responsibly, guys. This has been a Nebulous Media Podcast.